Welcome to the Meadows and Makers podcast. My name is Greg Dowd. I'm also known as Making Stuff on the Hive and Steven communities. And I am all over the social media game. And you can find me on Twitter at Greg Makes Stuff. And I do this weekly podcast, Meadows and Makers. It's all about trying to move towards a self-reliant lifestyle, and I try to bring on people that are in that kind of mindset, a mindset of abundance, and trying to take themselves and become more self-reliant in their own lives, as I'm doing the same in my own life. If you guys aren't familiar with my story, I'll tell you a little bit about my story real quick. That a couple of years ago, I was working a 9 to 5 at a corporate job, and I just had no passion. I had no passion for it. I was making pretty good money, but I had really no passion for it. And I had this longing since 2009. I created kind of a vision of how to live off-grid and some things and some technologies that I was looking into that could make that a possibility for me. And like a lot of people, I think, had the romantic idea and the idea of being completely self-sufficient and starting this journey so that I wouldn't have to need the systems as they stood. My background's in mechanical engineering, and during the big recession of 2008, 2009 is when I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree. And during that time, it was a little bit difficult for me to find work. And so during that time, I really kind of questioned some things and started to really question things and really look at why the world is the way it is. And that started my journey. And at that point, I really wrote down on paper what I really wanted, and I veered away from that for a while. I went back into the system, as you would say. Found myself some work in a research lab at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, where I did materials research for quite a long time, materials and systems, and studying components and how they components and systems and how their failures and component failures and things like that. And so, I was in that world for quite a while, and then moved on into a corporate job and doing installations of communications equipment for a little while. And then I just had this urge to build this trailer, which was all solar powered, and would making that transition to living a self-sufficient lifestyle possibility. And so, I went after it. I went after it and tried to build some kind of business, and had some struggles with that. And so, I sold my house. I sold all that stuff that I had in the city. Attempted to do Airbnb for a little while. I sold all that stuff and moved out to a little property that I have out in Crane Hill, Alabama. And so that's my story. That's a little bit of background about who I am. And this show is all about, a little bit about chronicling the journey that I've been going on to do that, and then also try to inspire others to look at, some of the ways that you can become more self-reliant in your own life. And we all know what's going on in the world is a little bit crazy, and I think there's a better way of living than the current system that we have right now. And that's really my goal, is to be able to share that with other people and share the things that I'm learning and learn from other people along the way as well. I try to bring on guests that are, doing some interesting things and trying to make the world a better place, and making the world a better place even in their own little world. And so that's what this show is all about. And to open the show today, let me first get some of the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get some of the things out of the way that the show is hosted through MSP Waves, and the views and opinions that are expressed on my show are my own and those of the guests that I bring on, and so they do not reflect on MSP Waves and the wonderful people that keep this operation going. To get out to the Hive community and now the Hive community and out to the internet to live stream every week. So big thanks to Rondon that makes all that stuff possible out there. And I just see that Rondon asked if I still make prosthetics. Yes, I still work in the shop. I work in a prosthetics shop now. I work part-time. I picked up a part-time job last year, and just to be able to make some income and support what I'm doing and trying to get everything set up on the homestead. And so, yeah, I work in a little prosthetic shop, and we make limbs for people that have lost their limbs, and we make braces, and then foot inserts and orthotics for people that have issues with their walking and things like that. So yeah, I had a friend that introduced me to that job, and I've been doing that for a little while now. I really like it. I really like working with my hands, and I'm in that shop working with my hands 3 days a week right now, and then the rest of the time is down on the homestead. So anyway, that's where I was last week. If you guys missed the show, I was going to try to get you guys a recorded show and get it out there so that you guys could listen to that. But that's where I was last week, and working on the homestead projects, and trying to get some things accomplished down there, and was able to get a lot done, and we cleaned up a good bit of the properties, so got that done. So anyway, we got the housekeeping, we got a little bit about myself, a little bit about the show out of the way, and what I wanted to start off today, I want to start off with a quote of where I really think those solutions lie. And this quote today comes from, it's going to come out of Derek Brose's new book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. And I got this from Derek Brose when I went to Anarchapulco this year in Acapulco, Mexico. And so I wanted to read a quote out of this book to get started today, and then we'll get it further into the show. I got some cool stuff lined up for you guys, and then also we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the projects that I've been working on, and then I also want to talk a little bit about natural law and what's going on right now in the world. And so we're gonna go into some tools today, and I'm gonna present some tools. We're gonna listen to some music. We're gonna kick back, relax, and just have a good time. And so today I want to start off with this quote from the book here. It's as more people reject the state's mystifications, nationalism, pseudo-economics, false threats, and betrayed political promises, the counter-economy grows both vertically and horizontally. Horizontally, it involves more and more people who turn more and more of their activities towards the counter-economic vertically. It means new structures, businesses, and services grow specifically to serve the counter-economy. Safe communication links, arbitrators, insurance for specifically illegal activities, early forms of protection technology, and even guards and protectors. Eventually, the underground breaks into the overground, where most people are agorists, few are statists, and the nearest state enforcement cannot effectively crush them. That's from Samuel Edward Konkin III, Applied Agorism in an Agorist Primer. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to talk about today. And I wanted to give you guys some tools in what can be the underground economy, the agorist marketplace. The term agora comes from the Greek, the marketplace. And so Samuel Edward Konkin's ideas here really kind of laid out there for you, in that the counter economy is all of the economic activities where the state may deem them illegal, or they are not taxed and sent to the state. And so, one example of this is going to an unlicensed barber to get a haircut and paying them in something. You could use some form of alternative currency, or you use cash to keep it off the books of the system. So these things are deemed illegal by the state, but they're just business and keeping business going as usual. And so it's basically the free market. And so without regulation and the interference of the state. And so that's a little bit, that's a solution. Buckminster Fuller talked about in one of the quotes that I really hold from him, is that build a new system that makes the old one obsolete. And so, that's really what I'm all about here, and what I like to talk about on my show. And so, with all that being said, with that little quote there, I want to share with you guys a little bit of what I've been up to. And this week, I got with Robbie Olson. He's a returning guest to the show, and we have lots of good conversations. He's right around me, right around where I live here in Alabama, and Black Spot, which I'm in Alabama, and I love that, man. So we're pretty close to each other. We work on some projects together. One of the recent projects that we're working on together is a design that he has called the Urbanite Aquaponics System. And so I'm going to share some photos with you guys on how we started this project, and we'll just build the structure, the beginning of the structure this past Thursday. And this is going to go part into a whole announcement that I have, and we'll get into that later in the show. But these are some of the things that both Robbie's going to get out to the internet, and then to try to help people if they're looking to get started with aquaponics in an urban environment, an urban suburban environment. You can grow inside your apartment, or you can grow in your backyard, or and learn and start to learn about aquaponics. And this system is designed all around all the 10 years of experience he has, and learning all the lessons that he has with aquaponics and how to do it a really effective way. And it's a little system designed for that kind of purpose. So here I have a photo pulled up of what we started off with, and it's essentially it's a 8 foot long and a 3 foot wide base structure there, and you frame it out like you would frame a floor, except all these boards are 1 foot separated, and it's creating the base of the system structure there. So we're using all sawmill lumber that Robbie has on his property, and that's another really cool thing, and an example of agorism right there is when you invest in equipment there you can do things like, trade labor for materials and things like that. Uh, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're using all this sawmilled lumber, and just having the readily available materials on your property is such a huge deal. Where you can take the raw material and transform it into something that you can use and have it readily available. I mean, lumber costs are going. If you've been in the home improvement store lately, the lumber costs are continuing to go up, and so is food right now. And the price of food is going like crazy. So right now, I think is really an essential time for people to start really taking seriously their own food production, and also thinking about how you can start at least reducing your grocery bill little by little, and just start really getting into understanding how to grow your own food, and what all that takes. And I think aquaponics is a really great technology for that. And once you really understand how the systems work, that it can be a really powerful growing technique. And so anyway, so here's the base of the system. And so we started doing this by taking the 2x4s that were milled from a piece of water oak that I got from a friend's property. And you start off by you square the ends on a miter saw. This is something that I wasn't very, and I don't really do, but Robbie really showed me. He's got a lot of construction experience. Is that you have to square off your ends anytime that you're using your boards for your measurements to completely. When you're taking your measurements and you're assembling something out of wood, you want to make sure that you take your 2x4s and you square the ends off first. And you cut your ends off because your ends are not perfectly square. And so you want to do that first whenever you're building something and assembling something. As the first step is to square those ends off. And yeah, these pics will be posted. So yeah, they're gonna go on the blog, and that's a big part of what I'm trying to get figured out right now, is how to be better organized so that I can make sure that I'm making my posts and getting everything uploaded for videos and all that stuff. So we took a series of videos on the build, and so Robbie's working on that right now, and helping him get his own little channel going for his efforts in what he's doing is going to be offgridaquaponics.com. And so that's something that's in the works there. And I'm going to, be helping him build, some of these things and helping him film. So we're working together on that. And so anyway, yeah, we get that. We get these 2x4s all squared up, and then the next part is to cut the legs for the system. And so we went through, we cut all the legs for this guy, and put some screws in there so that we can go in and mount these legs. So you get those screws pre-done, and then here's what the legs look like once they're attached. And once you get that done, then you can. We worked on the top of the structure, which is a frame for the top of the structure. So yep. We cut these boards into the appropriate size, and 245s on the ends of the boards. Cut with the miter saw. And then you come together and you assemble that onto the legs of the structure. And there's a little technique for squaring up the middle board there. Just take your speed square and make sure that center board is all squared up. And so the next step there was to set the mark the level for where the next floor frame is going to go. Essentially, a new floor frame for where the grow box is going to go. And so Robbie marked all that out, and I believe it was right at 11. I think it was 11 and a half inches or so. And we marked that out, and then continued to create the next frame, which is going to be for the frame for the grow box. And that's what that guy looks like. It's pretty much, I believe the dimensions are, it was 48 inches by 3 feet again, or I think it was a little less than 3 feet. And so got that done there and assembled that onto the structure. And this process goes by really fast. I think we did this, it took Robbie and I about 2 hours to get this whole process done, taking pictures and doing video and all that stuff all together. But, you know, Robbie's really skilled, and, you know, I can't say I'm not as skilled as him. I was learning a whole lot from Robbie and building this, and you know, but I know what I'm doing when I'm building, you know, to some degree, not to the degree that Robbie knows what he's doing, but anyway, yep. So we got that in there, and then we constructed another top, which is where at the very top of the structure is where the aquarium sits, and the aquarium is going to house the fish, and the water will spill down into the closest portion right here, which is going to be where all the grow media is going to be, which is going to be in this case it's going to be pea gravel. I'm going to use some pea gravel for this, and so we'll put that pea gravel in there, and the reason why we're using pea gravel, or you can also use some kind of river rock, is because you don't want to have any chemical interactions with the stone that you're using. So if you were to use limestone per se, limestone has a lot of calcium carbonate in it, and then this can really mess with the alkalinity of the aquaponics system. So you really need some kind of stone that is going to be neutral in the system. And so you can use river rock, you can use pea gravel. A lot of people use these hydroton pellets, which are clay. There's round clay pellets that people use, which are really effective in these systems. And basically you just want any rock that's not going to interact with the water in the system. It's going to change your aquaponics chemistry. So anyway, there's the basic structure, and that's pretty much what the structure looks like. There's a side view of it, so you can see the area for the aquaponics system at the very top, and that little frame it's basically like how you would frame a floor. And then you come down, and then you're going to have your grow bed area. That's at the second level there. And then at the very bottom is the floor for the sump area, which is where all the water flows to at the very end. It goes down into this sump where it is recirculated through the system back over again. And so yeah, there's all that. And then we used some more of the milled lumber that he had laying around. Some 1 by, I think they're 1 by, I think they're like 1 by 8s or something like that. And we used some of those to get this all finished up, put the decking on the top and the bottom there. And then we took that, and this is what it looks like. This is as far as we got that day, and then moved on to another project, which is the current aquaponics system that I have. And I had to do some work on this because these two cone tanks. If you guys are watching on mspwaves.com, you guys can see these two cone tanks that I pulled up here. These two cone tanks are holding 55 gallons of water apiece, and that is really heavy. And so I've been having problems with the cone tank slipping down beyond the plywood that they're set in, and so came up with this solution, which is taking some steel banding, and they sell these steel bands that you can. They come with a little bolt, and that little bolt you feed those steel bands into, and you can really tighten that down. And so what I did was I took some L brackets, some metal L brackets, and I put that on the steel banding, and so it's going to hold the lip of these cone tanks and hold it a lot tighter than I could ever get by just pushing the plywood around the cone tank. So that's something I've done recently and worked on that, and it seems to be holding up right now, and everything's looking pretty good. So here's a little bit of a front view of the aquaponics system. That got the fish tank and the main fish tank up at the top there. And then the fish tank flows down into a couple of cone tanks. And the purpose of that is to create a vortex. And that vortex is able to take the solids from the fish poop in the main fish tank, and then they settle to the bottom of these vortex tanks. And that way you can pull it off. I have drains at the bottom of the two vortex tanks. You can pull those solids off of the vortex tanks, and you can use them on various fruit trees or any of your soil gardening in this in your on your property if you're doing whatever soil gardens you're doing. And the fish poop is a really great natural fertilizer. And so that's the purpose of these cone tanks, is to pull that poop out of the system. And the poop is if it's left in the system, what it does is it builds carbon dioxide over the time, and it will basically choke out your fish. So you'll have problems with the fish having issues breathing and all that kind of stuff if you leave that solid poop in there. So that needs to get removed, and we do that through those cone tanks. And these cone tanks are something that are used in creating biodiesel. And so you can find those. Dudadiesel.com is where I bought these from. They actually are close to me in where I live. They're in Decatur, Alabama. And so I was able to go and pick them up. And so yeah, there we go. Those cone tanks eventually spill out after that filtration process is all done. All those solids are removed. Then you have solids-free water that comes down into the final section, which is at the very bottom, which is the sump tank. And so that sump tank water then gets pumped back up to the main fish tank, and the whole process begins over again. So that water gets pumped to the main tank. The main tank spills over into the vortex tanks, and then the vortex tanks spill back into the sump tank. So this is essentially the better aquaponics system design as far as maintenance goes, and it's gonna be more of a hands-off system than if you just chop off a top of a container and you just pump the water from the bottom to the top. Because what happens over the time in that kind of system, and Robbie's talked about it before, we had a whole show on this. You can go on my YouTube channel and you can go back and you can go look at the video that Robbie and I did together. On there, it's under the Tinker Tribe, all one word, on YouTube. And I'll drop that in the chat real quick here. And go back and you can look at the episode that Robbie and I did with talking about how to design aquaponics systems. So we go over all of the different types of aquaponics systems, and then we go into the different design concepts behind them. So there we go. Uh, so why no Discord stream? I don't know what's going on there. Hope everything's going well. Just been presenting these pictures from the projects that I've had going on recently. So, and talking about aquaponics. So, continuing the presentation with that. So here is the side view of what that looks like. And actually, yeah, I can. You know what, guys? Yeah, I can post these things in Discord too, so you guys can kind of see if you're just hanging out in Discord chat. So there you go. There's the side view of the aquaponics system with the vortex tanks and the main tank and everything like that. And that's how it all works. And that's a solid design from everything. And you guys, if you've been following me for a little while, I've been experimenting with aquaponics systems. I had this system in the city, and I moved it out while I was moved everything out of that city house after I sold it, and set it up over at my folks' place so that I can have a transition system that I can take down to my land. And so this system is, from all that stuff that I learned from Robbie and been experimenting with stuff for myself. And so so this system works really nice. It is it's a very well robust system, and this is kind of so all the stuff from learning from Robbie and all that. And let's see if I can pull up a photo here from some of the stuff that's growing in there is some kale. We got some marigolds to attract some beneficial insects, and those beneficial insects are great because you want insects like dragonflies and butterflies and other insects to come in there and help you take care of your the harmful insects that might be in the system. So here's a picture of some cherry tomatoes that I had planted in there, and I took these from some that Robbie's wife had donated to me. And tomatoes really do well in aquaponics systems, and you can clone them really well by taking the nodes of the tomato, and you can just take that and put it right in the rock of the aquaponics system, and those things will clone themselves and produce roots and just take off. And so tomatoes are one of the best for that. Like, they're really great on being able to clone in these aquaponics systems and multiply. And so anyway, Robbie's wife gave me some of these cherry tomatoes, and I was able to take it from the soil and just kind of separate out the roots and everything like that, and then just plant it into the pea gravel into the aquaponics system. And so, just able to take it directly from the soil and get a donated plant and wash off the soil. And that's very important. And let me say that is that anytime that you're planting in aquaponics, you want to try to get most of that soil off as possible. If you're going to take something that's already grown in soil and you want to transplant it into an aquaponics system, that you want to make sure that you get most of that soil off as possible, because it can mess with the pH of your system. So something to keep in mind. They do add nutrients into that soil, so it could mess with your pH balance in that system. Yeah, that's cool. I like that picture of those dragonflies right there. Those dragonflies are great insects to have because they eat other insects. And so you also get praying mantises and other things like that come by, and they'll come and eat on the harmful insects that are going to be in your grow system. And so so hey, we got Mike Coase. I see Foxit, and we got Shuvo that's here, and let's see, Solo, and what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining today, and yeah, we're just talking a little bit about what I've been doing, and what I've got going on, and so that's the aquaponics system. That's a little bit of basics on aquaponics, and gave you guys some samples of what I'm doing and working on with Robbie. And so this is gonna get more into detail on this, and gonna be posting about it and some things. And also, Robbie's gonna be coming out with the whole YouTube channel, offgridaquaponics.com, and helping him get on the social media and everything like that and get it out there to people. And also he's gonna have downloadable plans that people can go and download these plans so that you can check it out and build one for yourself. And so you do all that. So anyway, Foxy, you said you buy minerals or you make them. So in aquaponics, the fish are creating the nutrients for you. So when the fish poop and they pee, you're using those nutrients and breaking them down into the usable salts in the form of nitrates for the plants to take up. And then in the system, there's living bacteria that come in and they help create the process to make that available for the plant's roots, readily available for the plant's roots. And so you're using the fish waste as a way of creating a nutrient source for your plants. And so that's the basics of how aquaponics is working and why it can create such a easy way for you to grow plants in the system, because all those nutrients are readily available for the plants. So all right, so moving on here a little bit, I have some other photos from some recent plantings, and we did some swales on contour, and we planted elderberries and bush cherries in these swales. So these are the brand new elderberries, and you can see they got some plants, or some of the leaves are just pulling out of the ground right there, and they got new life coming out of these guys, and they're getting started. They look really, really healthy, and really, really proud of these guys. They came from Nick Ferguson, who's a big permaculturist, and my dad's been a long time listener of Jack Spearco. And this guy, Nick Ferguson, actually came out and did a permaculture consultation with us, which was really cool. And we kind of made a plan for how we were going to create a food forest and do the different zones of growing on my folks' property. So he recently got some of these plants from him, and then we started to get some of these planted out. And so yeah, there we go. There's some elderberries and some bush cherries, and then there was also some comfrey in there that I just posted to you guys in the Discord chat. So there's bush cherries, and then this is comfrey, and then I believe these are bush cherries right here, and comfrey. And comfrey is really great because it sends down some deep roots, and it really helps bring nitrogen into the soil around it. So that's one of the great things about comfrey. And yeah, that's some of the recent projects. This is out from my property. I got a little fig tree planted, and you can see the first little figs that are growing on that thing, and it's pretty cool. I've had that plant I took from the city, and I transplanted it in a pot, kept it alive and everything, and brought it out to the land and planted it. And this year I'm getting my first figs out of it, so I'm really excited about that. And another thing I'm really excited about is I just started to raise some quail too. And so Uh, Getting into raising some livestock right now, and I'm starting with quail. I did have chickens when I was living in the city, and I got into the quail from a buddy of mine that I work with at the prosthetics shop, and he has started to raise quail for health benefits for his daughter. And he was living in the city, and he lives in the city right now, and you're able to keep a lot of quail in a smaller area. So he really turned me on to looking into raising some quail. And so right now I have about 30 quail, and right now they're at their adult stage, and they're producing about 8 quail eggs a day on average is what I'm getting. And so right now I'm getting backed up on my quail egg production, and so these little guys are really fun to raise, and really really goofy little creatures, but those quail eggs are delicious, and they're also they're really great to pickle. And so they're really great to put on salads. You pickle the quail eggs and you put them on salads. Use some just vinegar, salt, bay leaves, and a little bit of garlic, some minced garlic. And you heat that in a pot and you get it hot but not boiling. Don't boil it. And then once you've hard boiled your quail eggs, then you take that and you put that in your solution there with the vinegar, the salt. You can put a little pepper, some minced garlic, and we also put onions and bay leaves in there. And that turned out to be super delicious. I'll tell you, those are some super delicious quail eggs. So I put them in my salads, and I've been having some really delicious salads with those quail eggs and everything like that. So anyway, I like the quail eggs, and Stace says that you boil them and then temperature or fry them. That sounds good. Yeah, yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, yeah, awesome. So Foxy, you say you're recommending bush blueberries. Those grow tall. You put 20 bushes to grow, and in 4 years you get a lot back. Okay. See, yeah, bush blueberries. Yeah, yeah, we got some of those. We got a few blueberry bushes planted. They're the rabbit eye variety for where we are in Alabama. We're zone 7A, where I am in Alabama, and so those have been doing really good. Another one that's been doing really good for us here in Alabama is peach tree. We have a peach tree back there, and that's been pumping out some peaches really recently, and so that's another good one for Zone 7A. And then fig trees. Fig trees do really well here in Zone 7A. So, all right. So here's a little picture of what I got going on at the property here, and this kind of leads me to an announcement that I want to make. And my announcement is that I'm going to start doing what I'm going to call Skillshare Sundays. And so Skillshare Sundays on my property is going to be all about, I'm going to try to, I'm going to attempt to get started with this whole concept of skill sharing. And my goal here is to have people come out to the property and, donate their time, a little bit at a time, and we'll do different skills. We'll do things like wild edibles. We'll do concepts of permaculture design. We'll do concepts in aquaponics design. We'll do something like biochar, and then other ideas like that. And what I'm trying to do in one of my recent projects that I'm trying to do is build a wood gas fire. So I'm going to ask for donations, and if you can't make a monetary donation, you can make a just a donation of your time and labor to help with some projects that are on the property. And so I'm going to start this as I don't know if it's going to be right now I just want to make it something like a monthly thing. Do like a monthly skill share of about 5 to 10 people in my local area in Alabama. And so if anybody is in the local area and would be interested, if you're in if you're in the southeast area, if you're interested in maybe coming out to do one of these things, please send me a DM sometime if you guys are interested in doing that. And so yeah, I'd love to have you out there. I've hosted a few people so far from the Hive and Steam It communities. We've had Solo that's on here today. Solo came out in the wintertime, and we all froze together in the winter. And then we had Co, and we had John Doer 123. I had those guys down for some projects on the property, and we got a lot done when they came down. And so yeah, here's a little view of the property as it sits right now after I got everything mowed this last week, and I got some trees taken down, I got some brush cleared up, and had a little fire out there, and yeah, it was a really great time. And so things are coming along out there. The water systems are getting a little bit better, and my water storage, I'm getting close to about 500 gallons of water storage, so that's working. And then I've got a makeshift bathroom set up, and a little shower house set up. So it's real basic. It's what I like to call a cowboy shower. And we just got out there and built some just a real basic lean-to structure so that I could have a real basic outdoor shower and bathroom. And here's another little guy that's on the property that is my new buddy, and I'm calling him Odin. So there's Odin. He is a little puppy that was just born on the land, and currently lives with the neighbor. And then I'm feeding him whenever I'm down there. And so he's a cool little guy, and so he's the future, hopefully, that I can have him full time in the future. But right now the neighbors are looking after him. But yeah, he's my new little buddy down there. And so yeah, so Stace, you're asking how's my water storage system. So I'm collecting water from rainwater from runoff from one area, and I've got it spilling into a 55-gallon container, and it's overspilling. Once it gets full, it spills over into a 270-gallon IBC tote, and then the rest of my water storage is all from me carrying water down there. So I'm carrying water in the back of my truck in 55-gallon barrels, and I'll go down there and I'll transfer that water using a DC pump, and I'll pump that water into my other storage barrels. And I've got some 55-gallon drums set up down there. I've got 4 55-gallon drums set up so that I can have that water stored, and then I'll pull off of that water, and I'll put it through a gravity filter, Alexapure gravity filter for my drinking water, and then the rest of the water I'll use for gray water for washing dishes and for taking showers and things like that. So yeah, I need to get more serious on the rain collection. And it's like Black Spock's little comment there. You need some Mexicans. And that's the thing about Mexicans, man. They sure can, and they will. They're Mexicans, not Mexicans. But yeah, that's another little great thing that I see of agorism is, my parents in my parents' little neighborhood here. they got a neighbor that's got a little piece of equipment, and they were able to set up a barter deal for some concrete work and in trade for some work for the equipment. So, all these little things that you can do to barter or trade, I think are really great. And so, that's part of building these systems outside of the system that stands right now. And, not a single violent act has to take place. It's just transitioning out of what is this paradigm that we have now into something better, in my opinion, where you live in a voluntary interactions, and you just live in all interactions are voluntary. So. So yeah, you still got the Irish too. I mean, there's some hard-working bastards right there too. So, a good friend of mine is Irish, and then they were once considered the Irish by Charles Darwin were considered like the total lowest rung of society, and there was no hope for the Irish and everything like that. But yeah, I'd say a lot of the U.S. is built on the backs of a lot of Irishmen and stuff too. So, as well as the Mexicans today. I mean, yeah, exactly like you guys are saying. Is like there's so much that wouldn't be done in the U.S. without Mexicans. Doing a lot of stuff too. So yeah, there's a picture of the quail right now. I got these guys in there, and right now it's a little rough. I'm working on their bigger place where they're gonna be in a little tractor, and I'm gonna tractor them around on the land, and they're gonna have some grass that they can eat and everything, and some bugs and everything, as long as all the grass, all the feed that I'm gonna have set up for them. I have a little water and a feeder and all that stuff. So yeah, we got the Chinamen. Yeah, we got the Chinamen in there too that were working on the railroads back in the day. They pretty much built all the railroads and everything. So yeah. Anyway, that's the whole thing. And a big thing that's going on in our country right now in the United States is that we've got people are really figuring out, and we're the violence is being magnified. The violence of the state and the police is really being magnified right now with the whole incident that happened with George Floyd. And so people are really realizing that the system is messed up and looking for solutions. And so I'm going to play some music here, and I am going to prepare for the next half of the show, and then we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that very topic of order followers, and we're going to go into some concepts of natural law and talk about order followers. So stay tuned, hang out. We're going to get into that in this next part of the show. So anyway, right on, and moving along with the show here, and what I wanted to get into with you guys today is some presentation from Mark Passio's natural law presentation. And I wanted to get into the whole topic of being an order follower. And so, tying into what all is going on with the world right now. And, before we get into this, just want to say to everybody that this is probably going to stimulate a little bit of discussion, and please get the discussion going, because I think this is really the time to talk about some of these things and get as offended as you like. So let's we'll get into it, and we're going to talk a little bit about order followers right now. And so, if you guys didn't know, kind of like a little bit of the history of municipal policing really goes back to the slave patrol days. And so, this whole thing, the system of policing that we have in the United States right now is has its roots in that right there. So a big issue, and one of the biggest issues with this whole thing is that these people believe that they have some authority over you as a free and sovereign being on this planet as a human being. And the roots of this whole policing and security and everything really go back to slavery, and and these slave patrols. So that's the roots, and that's where these things find their origins in there. So right now, let's get into some of the consequences of what it is to be an order follower, and these people that are carrying out the basically a protection racket for organized crime. So we'll get into it. So what you guys see and what we see right now, and the whole police state and the militarization of police and all these people, if you want to get further into that and you want to go pretty deep, if you want to go kind of deeper into this, I highly suggest everybody look up Stanley Milgram and the Milgram Experiments. And so, but right now, what we're going to talk about with that whole thing is, and it feeds into the Milgram Experiments, because those were experiments that were done where they would say you'd have some authority figure that would be giving instructions to somebody that would be sitting in front of somebody to administer electrical shock to them. The other people on the other end were actors, but they would act like they would be getting a shock from the person that was pushing the button. And as long as somebody was told that they should push the button to shock these people, then they would bypass their own moral that this is wrong, and they would push the button anyway, even though they knew it was wrong and they were hurting the person. And so this really is, the very core of what police are. The police are receiving orders from politicians that are arbitrarily writing their own rules down on paper and saying that everyone needs to follow these rules, or otherwise you will be at the behest of these thugs that are going to come by and enforce these laws. This mask thing, for instance, that's going on right now is one part of this, and putting these restrictions on businesses for how they operate during these times is another instance where people are running their own businesses and are trying to make a living to support themselves and their family, and then you have these people coming in to disrupt their business and putting fines on them and threatening them with police enforcement actions, where if they don't follow these rules by the politicians, then they're going to have people coming down on them. And so for any of the order followers out there, you always have the decision to not enforce these orders and to follow your oath. And if you took an oath to the Constitution, then you have that's your first if you're going to be in that position, that's your first duty, is to obey the Constitution if you're going to be in this position. So, following orders means doing what you are told to do without judging for yourself whether or not the action you are being ordered to carry out is right or wrong. So, following orders with just no question, and not really questioning the actual validity of the orders that you're getting. So, and if it passes your own conscience. If an individual is following orders, that individual cannot be exercising conscience, since by definition, exercising conscience means that one is willfully choosing for themselves right action over wrong action. everyone's got a conscience. Your conscience is recording every, all of your actions. And so, I really think that this is one of the why police have such a problem with domestic abuse and things like this. Their conscience is holding a record of all of this, and they fundamentally do not love themselves. Throughout history, the worst regimes in history have had the excuse that I was just following orders. And this is how you get regimes that pop up to do horrendous acts on humanity throughout history. This is the result. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but after you go down this road, it tends to end in this, which is total devastation to humanity, for whatever person that comes in power at the time. So this is where order following leads. I was just following orders is never a valid excuse or justification for immoral criminal behavior. And this lame attempt to abdicate personal responsibility should never be accepted as a valid excuse for such behavior. Just because you were told to do something, if it violates hurting another individual, then this is unacceptable. So, from the justification for this in the definition, from the Latin noun jus, right, law, and then the Latin verb facere, to make or to create a right. That's what that means. So we have a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. You assist an evil system most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil system never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking of evil. A good person will resist an evil system with his whole heart and soul, with his or her whole soul. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll talk about moral culpability. The determination of who is ultimately at fault here, or deserving of blame for the commission of actions which resulted in harm or loss to others. Culpable, which means at fault, deserving of blame, from the Latin noun culpa, fault or blame. Who is ultimately more culpable? Is it the order giver? Or is it the order follower? The person carrying out the orders of politicians. A lot of cops will give you this excuse that I don't make the laws, I just enforce them. Now, they always have the decision of not to enforce these little arbitrary dictates by tyrants in political office. So who is lying and who is telling the truth? You have the politicians on the left. My actions didn't cause that. And then you have the soldiers on the other end having to justify themselves and saying, my actions didn't cause that. I was just doing what I was told. And it all results in harming others, harming human beings. So here's the painful truth. The order follower is always more culpable than the order giver, because the one who actually performed the action actually brought the resultant into manifestation. Order following is a form of evil and chaos in our world, a virtue by anyone that considers to be a moral. It's always gonna bring evil and chaos. Order followers have ultimately been personally responsible and morally culpable for every form of slavery and every single totalitarian regime that has ever existed on the face of this earth. So what's the solution? What's the solution for everything, that's going on right now? What are we doing, and what's the way we move forward in a way that move forward here? Responsibility. An individual's personal responsibility to choose right action over wrong action for themselves is always their own. One can only claim that they are abdicating personal responsibility for such choice to someone else. It can never actually be done in reality. More simply put, an individual is always responsible for their own actions, and no cop-outs. You're always responsible for the actions you take in reality. Accept responsibility for yourself and your own actions, thoughts, and words. This is from David Icke. You alone make choices. You alone are answerable to the consequences of your behavior. And the feeble excuse that your boss required it, the establishment expected it, holds no truth or justification. What is the point in having principles if you allow others to dictate your behavior? At the end of the day, you will judge your performance and the contribution that you have made to creation. It will not be based on what another expected of you or what you did because you felt trapped. Now, in my own personal experience with the police, I've discovered that it is ultimately your own responsibility for your own defense and protection. I was in a situation where I was held at gunpoint when I was working at an auto parts shop in college, and you call for the police, and they'll show up 20 minutes later, and so neither would you want the police to be there 24/7, because then you have a complete surveillance state, and then ultimately it's all on you. So your protection is your own responsibility, and having these enforcers, especially the way that it's done right now with municipal policing, that you have these order followers that enforce laws that are can be extremely silly and very harmful for humanity and for people that are just trying to live out their own lives and just trying to make a living for themselves. This is why there's such disrespect for police right now, is when you have police officers coming to somebody that's trying to put food on the table for their own family, that you have officers coming in and telling them that they must abide by these dictates of these parasites, these politicians that are parasites. Politicians create nothing. They only leech off of us as a society, off of productive people. That you have these people enforcing these arbitrary rules that are marked down on paper for the good of society, so they say. So, but it all is detrimental for the people that are just trying to make it. So anyway, most people believe that they can hand over their natural right to self-defense to someone else, some group or entity. But in making such a false claim, they have attempted to abdicate a responsibility which always belongs to them and can never be given away. So it ultimately is your own personal responsibility for your self-defense. Now, I'm going to talk about some different methods that this can happen, other than the municipal police. And even if you wanted to keep some kind of system in your local area like that, definitely one of the things that has to come away from these policemen is qualified immunity. And so qualified immunity is basically a layer of protection that these guys have, which puts them above the law of everyone else. It's like it's like a legal shield, let's say, to basically these guys can do no wrong until you have proven that they have willfully disobeyed their their duty, and you have great evidence of this, and then you have to be able to produce this in a court of law, and you have to be able to prove this very well in the legal system as it stands. Only then can these people be held directly responsible for the actions that they've taken, whether it be to just use unnecessary violence on the population. And so, in my opinion, if you agree that you need some type of public policing, that is one thing that must be taken away, is qualified immunity from these police officers. They must be held individually responsible for their actions. Otherwise, there's no feedback mechanism for them to not just trample on the rights of individuals. So that's number one, and that's something that if you want to keep that, that needs to go away. And that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on that. And so, other methods that can be done in multiple areas in creating something better as it stands right now is just creating community watch groups in your neighborhood. That's one way that you can do it. Organizing, creating community watch groups. You can also have local militia groups. This is demonstrated in the town of Tyranny in Mexico, where they had a lot of problems with the cartel, and the federal government was actually in bed with the cartel, and really subjugating the people in Tyranny, where the people rose up and kicked all those guys out, and what they used for their own protection is basically a local organized militia group. And they work to keep out any state enforcers out of their community. And so, that's one way that you can provide that protection for your people. You have other options like the Detroit Threat Management Center, where Dale Brown, you can go look up Dale Brown at the Detroit Threat Management Center, where they're teaching nonviolent means of doing security measures for communities. They give a lot. They do their own private security. They offer private security forces for people, for celebrities, for corporations, for people like that. And then they also give a lot back to the community. They do a lot of community security, and they use nonviolent means to be able, with compassion for their fellow man. And a lot of the people, that you meet on the street are... and a lot of people that are in tough situations on the streets, a lot of them have mental illness issues. And so, when you can kind of approach a situation using all the tools in your toolbox to not go to lethal means, then, you're able to come at your fellow man with compassion, rather than how most of these police are trained right now, is to always go home and always make sure that you're going home, and shoot first and make sure that you're going home, and not to approach the situation and de-escalate the situation. So that's another option where new training can come in, and things like this can happen as a way to do these things in different communities. So those are just a few options, but ultimately it is your own personal responsibility for your self-defense, and you can't give that you can't give that to somebody else and expect any kind of good result to come out of it, because it's ultimately your own personal responsibility. So this goes to a quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither, and will lose both." So this is where we're at, folks. This is where we're at as a society here in the U.S. You know, we have a lot of people that wish to have a little temporary security, and we keep losing more and more of our rights if we go down that road. Uh, and I want to go in a different direction. I'd like to go in a different direction, and that comes with personal responsibility and forming our community and being stronger as community and really kind of working to unite with each other instead of being so divided by, you know, this is all a big agenda to just further separate people. The whole thing with the masks is a further separation between the masks and the non-masks. And then you have the race situation. There's only one race. It's the human race. And we're all getting played like suckers right now. And, you know, this is something that I'd like to see changed, and I'd like to talk about some of this stuff. So I will go back to the whole self-loathing thing, where fundamentally inside, you know, when you have to abdicate your personal responsibility to someone else, you're not truly living in your personal sovereignty. And so this ties into self-loathing. Self-loathing is the underlying psychological condition that causes people to attempt to abdicate their own personal responsibility to exercise conscience and fall into patterns of order following and justification. Just as it is not possible for an order follower to truly be exercising conscience, it is not possible for an order follower to truly love themselves. I have suffered, therefore I shall cause suffering. Self-loathing is created when an earlier trauma has been suppressed and buried into the subconscious mind. Instead of being confronted and dealt with and healed, such trauma could take the form of feelings of inadequacy, whether real, suggested, or imagined. So, this is the state that a lot of these people are at. Is really needs to take a look back and look at themselves to really work on the healing of internal traumas, to really love the self. If you love yourself, you don't wish to control anyone else, or you don't wish to have that control over anyone else. And so it really is an internal work that really needs to happen, is to really take a look at yourself. So respect comes from the Latin prefix re, again, and then the Latin verb spectare, to look at, to take another look at oneself. Only self-respect can heal self-loathing and therefore help to put an order follower to the path of true conscience, to their own conscience. So there you go. There's my little presentation on the little portion of natural law and order followers. And so really I think that this is, you know, part of the process is that, you know, to look at the things that are occulted in some of this information on hidden knowledge. Occulted just means that which is hidden, and this knowledge is used to basically put humanity into what we're experiencing right now is a prison which bars you can't see. It's a covert form of slavery that we're all under. We're all, as the human race, under this covert form of slavery, as all of your labor and wages are paid to go to some entity, the federal government, which you don't even owe, which is there's somebody I interviewed recently is Payman Motadehe of Freedom Law School, and you know he's got a reward out there for anybody that can go and find the law which requires you to pay an income tax on your labor and wages. It's a $300,000 reward. And so if anybody is interested in collecting that and wants to look more into the income tax and why you don't owe an income tax, to go look up livefreenow.org and look into the $300,000 reward that's there for anybody that can show where the individual owes an income tax on their labor and wages. So go check that out. All right. So that is the end of the presentation I have there for natural law and order following. And so put that put that out there. And let's see. While I was in there, I got a little passionate about all this stuff. I've been keeping up with the chat, but I see a lot of people saying, yeah, you got to be responsible for yourself. And then, so yeah, that's ultimately where it stands in the fundamental thing that we all have to do is take responsibility. If we want to live free as free human beings, then we have to take responsibility for our actions in every way. So there you go. That's something I wanted to present to you guys. Another thing I want to present today is a way to look up and get your hands on some censored information. This was another great tool that I was presented while I was at Anarchapulco in 2019 and took the trip to Anarchapulco. I took Mark Passio's workshop on natural law, and he kind of showed us some stuff about how to look up information on the internet right now. A lot of this is it can be a little difficult, especially finding, some of the books and some of the things that are, might be a little bit more difficult to find. With everything that's going on right now with this whole COVID hysteria and the plandemic, as I like to call it, the scamdemic. Here are some books that are laid out by Dr. Andrew Kaufman. If you guys aren't familiar with Dr. Andrew Kaufman, I highly suggest looking him up. And right here's a list of books that Dr. Andrew Kaufman has suggested that people go read, and to get a little bit more understanding between the whole idea between germ theory and terrain theory, and then how things in the environment can affect our health and our immune systems. So this book list is right here. I've pulled up on the screen right now. One of the ones that I was able to find on the resource that I'm going to give to you right now is conscen.org, and I'll type that in here. It's called conscen.org, O-R-G, and that typed in wrong. Conscen.org, and this is where you can go and you can download books like this. There's a big repository of where you can get magnet links for torrents to be able to download some books that are very they're very mind opening and add to your knowledge base. So I really like to share these things, but let me just quickly go and give you the book list here. The first one on his list here is What Really Makes You Ill: Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease Is Wrong, written by Don Lester and David Parker. The other one is called Crooked: Man-Made Disease Explained by Forrest Merity. One is AIDS, Opium, Diamonds, and Empire: The Deadly Virus of International Greed by Nancy Turner Banks, MD. Murder by Injection by Eustace Mullins. Virus Mania and then The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. So there's some book suggestions for you guys, and I'm gonna walk you through how you can do this. So, all right, so here I have consend.org pulled up, and you can see here's everything that on their main torrents page here. When you go to consend.org, it pulls you to this page first, and it gives you a little guide on how to find their torrents. So, from their homepage, you click on torrents here, and that gives you a whole list of torrents that you can search through. So, if you're not familiar with torrenting, that was like back in the day where you had your Napster and all that stuff, where you could download files, download music, and everything like that. Torrents are a way of doing that. I know everybody that's in here is probably familiar with torrents. But one really great torrent downloading software is called Deluge, and so you download that from deluge-torrent.org, and you can just look up the term deluge, and that'll lead you to the software that you can use. So anyway, once you get Deluge downloaded there, you can go to Consend here, and you can look up your books, whatever you're looking for. You can see my recent search list here. Right now, I'm gonna look up this book. It's called The UCC Connection: How to Free Yourself from Legal Tyranny. And this is a really important book that I think everybody should take a minute to read. And it's shows you how the current legal system is set up with uniform commercial code, and how to use that system to your own benefit, and to really understand what you're doing in the legal system, and to have more tools at your own disposal. So anyway, there's the UCC connection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click that magnet link. It's going to take me to this page where it's going to say I can either start the torrent or copy the magnet link. I'm going to copy that magnet link so that it's there in the copy to my clipboard. And then we're going to go into the Deluge software. This is what the Deluge software looks like when you open it. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add a torrent. I'm going to go to URL and add from URL. And it's got the magnet link already there because I copied it into the clipboard. And then I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to add it. And now it's got it queued for the download. For the torrent, and then once it finds enough peers, then it'll begin to download the torrent. So this is a way to get your hands on some of the books that may be censored, and some of the books that may be a little bit difficult to find out there. But this is a resource for anybody that's looking to try to find yourself some books that I saw the comment earlier that you like I think it was from Fox that says he likes the physical books, and I do too. But to be able to read so many books, you're gonna have to spend ungodly amounts. Your budget. You better have a big budget if you want to be able to look into all these books and get all this information, where this is an opportunity for people to be able to upload and share, these critical books that I would say, that, some of these things and some of these books, even on the whole vaccine issue, are getting digitally burned by Amazon. So some of these things aren't showing up. So this is something that I wanted to present to you guys, is just a tool that you can use to find more information on the internet. And there's lots of stuff in here on how to do that. And if you have a book that you really believe that needs to get uploaded, a way to do that is to you have to destroy the physical copy of the book. I know that's pretty sad to do, but you have to take the binding off of the back of the book, and you have to separate out the pages. Once those pages are loose and separated out, then you can put it into something like one of those copy machines where you can feed the whole the whole document into the copier, and it comes by one after one and scans the pages, and then at that point you can have your PDF that you can torrent and put online as a torrent. So if there's a book that you really think should be read out there, and you don't see it on something like consend.org, then that's something that you can do is be able to scan the book and then be able to upload it. And then Foxy, you said that you can just use your phone. Yeah, you could do that too, but it would take you quite a while. So those are some tools for you guys. A lot of you guys might be familiar with it, but I just want to cover it for anybody out there that might be listening on the other end of the internet and that's not hanging out here. I know in this community that we got a lot of tech savvy people. So if anybody else out there is unfamiliar with these things, I wanted to present this information so that people could empower themselves with more knowledge. Is the what I want to do. Anyway, another place where you can find information is unblockit.one. Unblockit.one. And so this place, it sets you up with, all the different, some different places where you can do direct downloads. You can do book downloads. You can do streams, streaming movies, different stuff. Find yourself on some torrents and stuff like that. So here is a good website for finding more information and accessing some possibly blocked information that's out there on the internet. So unblockit.one. I'll put that down in the chat room here. Unblockit.one. There you go. So anyway, I am going to take a break here for a second. I'll play you guys another track, and then I'll come back and we'll get this show wrapped up, and then I'll stay tuned for Crimson Clad and the Cyber Buzz coming up next right after this show. So, well, going solo for 2-hour shows, you definitely have to have those musical breaks, and I really feel Crimson Clad, and she does it every week. That's pretty impressive. So, anyway, this is the first show that I wanted to kind of do solo and just kind of laid out with everything here. So today, and tried to hopefully give you guys some tools and some suggestions here on maybe a better path to move forward. And so really it comes back to what future do we want to see? Do we want to see an ever increasing and militarized police state? Or I think people are really getting fed up with everything that's going on right now, and actually really seeing the violence of the state and truly what it is. And this whole thing right now that's going on with the they call it's getting called the blue flu, where these policemen think that they're staying at home and it's going to cause more chaos, that there's going to be more chaos in the streets because the police are not showing up to work, and they're not going out and doing their harassment and collection is what I like to call it. A lot of them do that, but actually, I think it's gonna have an opposite effect. Is that all these cops that are staying home and claiming that they're sick and all this stuff. I think people are going to be more peaceful to each other because they don't have that threat of somebody coming in and just fining them for stupid things and and instead of what they should be doing is going after legitimate violent crimes and not just harassment and collection on people that are just trying to live their own lives and trying to operate their own businesses. And so so yeah, that's what I would say to all the cops out there right now is do your either do your oath to the Constitution or give up the badge and find some more productive work and call each other out. I really don't think that there are any good cops because they all of the good ones get pretty much fired from their job. You can see with the recent cop that came out and started to talk about how there is gonna be an uprising in this country against the police if police keep continuing to enforce these silly laws by these tyrants, politicians, these political parasites. And this guy got fired after he came out and he spoke out about the issues. So it really is coming to a breaking point. And recently I was invited to go and to some of the activists in the local area in Huntsville, Alabama. Got together and just started to talk about these issues. And I sat in and kind of listened to their perspective on things. And it seems to me that it was a group of people that were in the Black Lives Matter protests and everything that they just want to trade one enforcers for their own flavor of enforcement. And so so it's just going to be this kind of continuing process where you're substituting one enforcement agency for the people that you think are going to be the awesome people that are going to protect you and your rights. So I tried to get in there and kind of tell them about some of the ideas that I just presented to you guys today. And I think that's ultimately the better way is to claim that personal responsibility. Don't abdicate it over to someone else, and to be responsible for all your own actions. There are plenty of options out there. Like I was talking about the Detroit Threat Management Center and what Dale Brown is doing up in Detroit in these alternative tactics. But the system as it stands right now really wants to keep everyone subservient and following orders, and to really do this worshiping of the military and the police, and like they're these all powerful protectors of society. And I think that's a mistake. And what's up, Sahid? I see you in there. Good to see you here, man. And so arguing there's good cops is like arguing there's good thieves. Yeah, because fundamentally, they're have to in order to enforce the laws of these politicians in man's law, that they have to ignore their own morality and go and injure people. So no, I'm not gonna say that that all cops are people that are gonna go out and and go out and murder people, but they're definitely have to ignore their own morality to be able to enforce and use the violence to get people to comply with these orders in politics. So yeah, that's something that I think is a necessity for humanity to move and evolve instead of revolving right back to what we had. And really that example from Tehran, I think, is one of the most powerful examples of how these people are able to have their own security forces in their town. And it's something I want to look into more, is really how they deal with like some internal conflicts and things. And previous guest Paul Chermak spent some time in Tehran and was able to kind of see how they did everything out there. I will have these podcast recordings uploaded from some of my recent guests, and that's something I'm working on in total here for myself, is that I've been behind the eight ball on getting some of these things uploaded and getting my blog and everything done and trying to keep up with the homestead and doing all this. So I do have somebody in the local area that is willing to help me out with some of these things and to maybe help a little bit on getting the podcast recordings out and things that I'm letting slide a little bit. So anyway, yeah, that's the big part of the show today. And so yeah, just kind of looking through the chat there. Yeah, it's just yeah, I really just want to put that in everybody's mind, and how the cops. I think it's so funny that you have these cops in I believe it was in New York recently, coming out and saying like, we need the respect of people. People aren't respecting us enough, and calling us like the dregs of society and all that stuff. Well, I think that's good. These guys should be called out for all this, basically being above the law with this qualified immunity, and they really, that really needs to go away if you're going to have any kind of municipal police department whatsoever. Their qualified immunity needs to go away so that they can be directly responsible for all their actions that they do against people, and be held personally responsible. Not just you sue a police department and everybody goes and goes about their business. They get bailed out by the taxpayer, essentially, paid off. Whatever damages are done to somebody, they get just paid off by the local taxpayer, and there's no direct personal responsibility for those actions or any repercussions other than, if it was bad enough, they'll get fired. But there's no, it needs to be, they need to be held directly responsible for anything they do, even monetarily, when they've caused harm to someone. And so, yeah, drop the qualified immunity. It's a big thing. And yeah, yeah, drug war. Yeah, all that needs to go away. That's a big part, is just nonviolent crime. When people are just consuming a substance or something like that, that you can't enforce people to be good. You gotta deal with the issues of why they're addicted to substances and things like that. You really have, that's another personal responsibility thing. You have to get to the core of the issue. A lot of it is, a lot of addiction is because people are self-loathing themselves even. And, you have to, work through those issues so that you don't need some kind of substance to feel whole. You need to work on those traumas, those underlying traumas in yourself. And, and confront those shadow parts of yourself so that you can become a better and a better person as a whole. So yeah, do what you want as long as you're not harming others. Do no harm, but take no shit. And that's part of this peace, abundance, and liberty that we're all trying to work for and trying to work towards a better world. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys today, and thank you guys for coming and hanging out for the show. Uh, I will have all the links and everything that I was talking about today in the show notes for this show. And I really appreciate everybody that came and listened in on the Discord. And I'll give a shout out to all you guys that are hanging out in the Discord. We got Clayboy, we got Crimson Clad, we got Done Stuff, Foxit, Inertia, Mexican Spock, Patient Zero, Rondon, Revised Sociology, Sahih Miller, and Alien Honey, and Julia. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for hanging out this week. And coming up next week, I am going to try to bring on a guest. I'm going to attempt to bring on a guest, and going to have somebody that another interesting guest for you guys. So stay tuned for next week, and appreciate you all for hanging out.